Hello, everybody. Welcome to Generation 19 podcast. I'm your host, Pastor Philip, and our guest today is Miss Natasha. And so I am so excited for her to be with us. She is going to unpack her amazing story with us today, and we're just going to dive in. So how you doing?
I'm good. I'm just peachy. How are you?
Peachy's good,
Peachy's
especially
good.
since we're getting into peach season and we
Yeah.
live in peach country.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, awesome. Well, so today we want to dive into, you know, how things have happened in your life and what's brought you to this phase of your life. And so first, just give people an idea of what you do and what God's called you to.
Okay. Yeah, well, I am I just say I'm a minister. I'm not really big on titles, but I do a lot of deliverance. Not in a traditional sense. I do a lot of deliverance through the operation of prayer and the courts of heaven. Deal with a lot of generational issues and strongholds in people's lives, and helping them to process that and overcome that, so that they can really be all God has called and created them to be. And so that's a big part of what I do, is helping people walk through hard things and overcome generational cycles that have held them back, as well as dream interpretation coaching, helping people understand the language of dreams and how God communicates to them in the night season. And I'm really big on how dreams are really big prophetic words, some of the best prophetic words you'll ever receive. And so those are two of the major things I do, and I write books.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
She's very creative. She's not saying that, but I will say that. She's very creative. She paints, she cooks, she does all kinds of things. And then on top of that, she has this gift to interpret dreams and minister to people deeply. It's not just your, hey, let me pray for you. It's a life-changing ministry. She has it online, and we're going to talk more about that. But just start to take us through your story. How did you come to Christ? Where did all of that begin for you?
Okay, yeah, I'll just start at the beginning. So I grew up in church my whole life. But it wasn't a smooth sailing from the beginning. So my mother was she was a prostitute. She was addicted to crack cocaine. And so when I was born premature, and I had crack cocaine in my system. And when I was 4 years old, she did the best she could with what she had, right? But when I was 4 years old, I was sexualized by a relative. And at 5 years old, my mother was murdered by her drug dealer. And so a little bit of a rough start. My grandmother ended up adopting me. Praise the Lord for grandmas.
Right, right.
So she adopted me and raised me, and my great-grandmother as well. So my great-grandmother was the one who was in church all the time, had us always in church. And so when I was 5, after my mother was murdered, I started drawing and just creating, That was my outlet. And
Wow. So early on, the creative was an outlet to all the chaos and craziness had to deal with, and the pain.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
And
That makes sense.
yeah. And so my father was, he was around, but he wasn't there like I needed him to be. And I understand now he didn't have the things he needed to be a father. But he was around. He was doing the best he could with his own struggles and just generational stuff he was working through, and still is. But yeah, so my grandmother raised me. I was raised in church my whole life. And even though I was in church, I still had a taste for the world. And so at 8 years old, I got baptized, and I ended up leaving when I was about 15, my church I grew up in, or 14, and I went to a different church. But I had always been adventurous and had a little wild spirit.
Okay.
And so in high school, I got into, the partying scene, and I was very sexually active at a young age. I have always been curvy, so I used that to my advantage. Just even some other relatives who were in that lifestyle of just using men to get what they want and looking at men as objects to give you what you need. And so I learned that from a young age, how to kind of manipulate men.
Okay.
And so it came to a hedge for me though when I was 16, and I was doing my thing. I would go to the clubs, I would party. We had a little set or clique that did parties around the city, and we thought we were big stuff, right?
Right.
But and all this time I'm still in church, so I'm doing this double thing, right? And so at one night we were at a sex club, and one of the girls' boyfriends, who was like a big gangbanger in the area or whatnot, he was upset about something, was drunk. We're in the car and the engine's running. He gets mad, he pulls his straps out, his guns, and he just shoots the car up while we're in it. And I was like, okay, Lord, I'm done playing these games with
Okay.
you.
All right. There's the wake up call.
That's the wake up call, right?
Ooh.
Yeah, but I was making a lot of money, and
Right,
so
right,
that
right.
was hard
Yeah.
to walk away from that. Like, and my grandma would be like, how are you getting all this stuff? Where's all this coming from?
Right.
And I'm like, I would never just tell her. But
Right.
yeah, so that was hard. So I went through a process of, trying to get out of that lifestyle, but still being addicted. And I had a big sex addiction because it just ran in my, apple don't fall far from the tree, right?
Right.
And so that was something I used to just sustain, the life I wanted and just get what I wanted. And so after the whole encounter at the sex club, I did reevaluate my life. And I was like, okay, Lord, I need your help because I can't do this. And then my, friends at the time, so who I thought were my friends, were pulling me back into that. And eventually I went to, I just go to youth camps every summer with Inner City Youth. We would go to the mountaintop to have a Moses experience. And so at 1 year at camp, it was the year that I made my decision to really serve the Lord. And, the pastor at the time, he just shined the light on the crowd, and the light was shining on me. It was like, hundreds of kids, and it was shining on me. He called me out. He said, are you going to live for the world, or are you going to live for God? Who are you going to contend for? You need to make your decision now. And I, oh Lord, I give my life to you. So that began my journey of really actually starting to seek God and really not living the double life that I was accustomed to.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So it sounds like to me that this, near, getting shot experience, right, and or seeing the seriousness of the darkness and the potential, having the seed of God in your life, knowing better, right, and yet money, excitement, all the things that go with that lifestyle are pulling you, and it's a hard decision to make, but you made it.
Yeah.
You made it. And so in your early phase there, what were the encounters with God like? What was did you come to him, and experience something? Did he show you something? Did somebody say something to you? What were those initial experiences like?
Yeah, so I remember being at FCA, a Christian Fellowship, camp
Right.
or whatnot, and I was up in Prescott at the time, and I had never seen snow, and so we were up there, and one morning I woke up and I saw snow for the first time, and the Lord had spoke to me. He's like, I've washed your sins away, and I've made it white as snow.
Ooh.
And I felt his presence so heavy, and I was like, I don't want to leave this place. I don't want this to go away.
Right.
And I would see the joy that certain individuals had who lived a lifestyle that were, even though they were young, they were close to the Lord. And I was like, I just want that. That's what I'm missing. That's what I need in my life.
Yes.
And so that began to stir in my heart a desire to know the Lord. And the Lord had told me, he's like, I want to father you. I want to be what you're seeking. And, the pattern has been with women growing up that I knew is, you depend on a man. And the Lord said, I'm going to be the one you depend on here. I'll take it from here. And so when he told me that, that really, it struck my heart, like he wanted to father me. And so I began to seek him in a different way. I didn't want to just do religious stuff. I wanted to know God. I wanted to know him, know his ways, like Moses. Teach me your ways. And so that was a turning point for me to really go towards the Lord. And then shortly after that, I got involved with some ministries, specifically in deliverance, and I became a counselor at the camp that I got set free at, and learned a lot about deliverance, especially with dealing with inner city youth.
Okay.
And so when I would see people get set free, and even my own experience getting set free, and the bondage that people were in, it created this burning in me to see people delivered and to be set free, because it would happen to me and I saw what it did for others. And so I was a part of a ministry called Healing Hands Ministry at the time. And in Arizona, a lot of the houses were built on, some of the houses we would come to were built on burial grounds, Indian burial grounds. And so we'll have this supernatural activity, things flying around the house. This one of the individuals got a text message, like just from a demon, really. That's all I can describe it as. It just started texting, I'm greater than you, and this is just the beginning. And it's just, she's showing us, and she has cameras, so we're seeing the supernatural activity. And so what we would do is we would come to the houses and we would pray. We would fast and pray before we went, and we would do home invasions, is what we called them. So basically like a Ghostbusters, like a real life Ghostbuster. So we do home invasions, and we would evict the spirits off, dealing with the land. And that is that. God really taught me a lot about the land and the redemption of earth and the redemption of land through that process. Not just healing for people, but the earth as well. And so I could see in the spirit from a very young age. I was opened up to that stuff very young. A lot of superstition, even in Black culture. And so I always felt stuff. I've always seen stuff. I've always seen demons. And so I could see what was going on. And so that started to stir in me even more hunger. And then we also did with that ministry, inner healing. That's when I was first introduced to inner healing. And so seeing families reunited and seeing families set free, I was like, oh, we could do this? Like, is this what this is about? Like, this is how we do life? Like, I'm here for it. So that's how it really shifted into ministry for me. That was the foundation for me.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So it sounds like to me, Natasha, a lot of what you were opened up to, a lot of the things that you learned, a lot of your early experiences were supernatural, right? And so most Christians, come into the kingdom through, a sinner's prayer. We walk forward in a church. We raised our hands, and we said yes, and we said that prayer, and then we're Christians, right? And we're not introduced to that supernatural world. We don't realize, the principalities, powers, and things that are against God's people, and we don't see it, and we're not taught to see it, right? And so that's very unique that you had these experiences, and then you learned how to operate in that authority very young. And, you were taught in these different ministries and different things how to walk in that authority, how to, cast spirits out of people's homes and people, and, do the inner healing work of putting them back together and restoring them and seeing the fruit of that, right? Yeah. So I know, as somebody who's walked in some of these things myself for, a long time, when you see the fruit of it, when you see people restore, that's what's beautiful. So in all of that progress, what was the hardest thing for you to overcome?
I would say the hardest thing for me to overcome would be the anger I felt towards my parents, my mom, and my dad. And, I made excuses. They didn't get what they were needed, and it's true. But two things can be
Right.
true at once, right?
Right. Right.
And so when I didn't really cry when I was little. Like, I remember walking up, after my mother was murdered and we went to go see her body. I didn't cry for her. I just, little me didn't know how to process that. And so when I was 30, the Lord brought that to my attention. I was spending time with him. He said, can I have that? And I said, what are you talking about? He said, that hurt. You're angry at your mother. And I said, I'm not angry,
Right.
And so I was like, okay, I am angry. I'm upset. And and I just began to cry for the first time for her in 30 years.
Wow.
And God began to deal with that mother wound that I had, and, the belief that all the women that come into my life leave me. And the lies I believed about that, and the cocoon I put myself in, and these barriers and these walls and distrust I had for women and men, but at that time women. So that was the hard thing for me, and then also forgiving the man who murdered my mother, because shortly, when I was growing up, like around 10 years old, my auntie, she had told me she had saw him in church with his daughter at the altar. And, I was like, well, why does he get to, just go off scot-free and not live, and not suffer the consequences? He stole my mother from me. And the Lord dealt with me like, you need to forgive him and release him. And not just him, pray for his daughter, that she doesn't carry the sins of her father that he inflicted on her.
Yeah.
And so truly forgiving him was really hard for me. But, the Lord had to remind me, I forgave you of all you've done. And
Well, it's but I think that abandonment issue, to understand and to have that insight that, mom's decisions created a big hole in your heart, and what she exposed herself to, and being able to grieve, because it sounds like there was a lot of pain attached to the loss, which to me would sound very rational, very normal, like, this is how you feel when you have a very painful thing. And then, to realize it's connected to other women that you might be dependent upon, and that you got to be careful that you don't project, what you experienced in that relationship, the abandonment there, onto other people.
yeah.
Right? And so that's very mature. And it sounds like that was a season of healing for you, right? And walking that out and allowing yourself to feel that and work through it and work through that process. When you were doing all of that, did you ever just feel like, is this really worth it? Is this going to work? Did you ever doubt the process, or was it something that you were successful at and you really leaned into it?
I leaned into it even though I hated the process.
Okay.
I my whole 20s, I would always say, I hate my life, because I'm dying. And, living sacrifices move. And so it's like, Lord,
Right.
let me get up, And so it was a process, and it wasn't easy for me, but I wanted God more than my emotions, more than what I thought I needed for my life. I wanted him. And he had shown himself faithful, even though it wasn't how I wanted it to be. My life wasn't how I wanted it to be. He was always faithful to me. And my love for him as father had grown. And so I was willing to let my emotions die before my convictions with him. And so that's how I processed that. Like, it don't feel good now, but it will be good because you said you are good. And I was holding on to what I knew to be true, regardless of what I felt, even though it was a long, dry, hard season.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, and sometimes I think when we're working through hard things in our life, because you have a whole school of people in the body of Christ who say things like, well, you got it all at the cross, and you shouldn't have those feelings, and you don't need to deal with that. You don't need inner healing, deliverance, counseling, support, whatever. It's like, you just should be instantly better, right? And yet they make messes of their lives, and we create problems because we have unresolved emotions and pain, right? And so I respect you for that. I respect you for leaning into that in your 20s when most don't, right? And then the issue of forgiveness, was that a one-time prayer? Or
No.
was it a series of, I can envision him being taken out, or what was it?
For me, it was, okay, Lord, I don't want to forgive this dude. I think he should, my emotions.
Right.
But I had to ask, okay, so Lord, I want your perspective. Help me to see, and that's what I asked for the Lord, because even with dealing with, individuals and intercession and praying for people who are wicked, the Lord helped me to see him from that perspective, that they didn't start that way. No one is born saying, I want to be a murderer,
Right.
And so the Lord brought me to look at him from his perspective and what God originally ordained for his life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so when the Lord showed me what he had fashioned him for, I began to pray from that place, because now I have heaven's perspective, not my earthly lens. And that helped me to release what I felt, and be real with the Lord.
Sure.
But just forgive him from a place of seeing who he was is not who God intended him to be. And he made those choices because of the hand he was dealt, not making excuses for him. But that helped me to forgive him, and then asking for God to forgive him as well, and not hold his sins, what he did against me, as well. So it was a process. It was not a one-off thing.
Right.
It was walked out.
Yeah, right. That's profound. That's profound that you went to God and got God's perspective on this man's life, and you said, oh, I see. This is not who he was born to be. This is who he became.
Yeah.
And that created a lot of pain in my life, but I'm going to forgive him based on what the Lord showed me about him. And that you would also release his daughter so that she would not be, contaminated by the sins of her father. How special, how profound that, it's amazing to me what God shows you when he's restoring you, and how much it helps other people, right? So our journey opens the doors for other people to get set free.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
I mean, I love that.
Yeah.
So that was the hardest thing. What would you say is like the sweetest, most beautiful experience you've ever had with the Lord? Because I know you've had some really cool ones.
To pick one of them. I would say a time when I was just really seeking him. I typically do shut-ins, and I just go off and just be with the Lord. And at one of these times, he had encountered me in a very special way, and he took me to a place. I had a vision. It was like a vision. I don't know how to describe it. It's like I was there, but I was not.
Okay.
Like I wasn't here.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And so in that vision, he was showing me just aspects of who he is and who he created me to be. And he gave me this crown. And he said, you have done well. You've gotten your well done. But there's much more that I want you to do, and that we have to accomplish together. Will you continue to say yes? It was like a proposal, another proposal,
Okay.
And it was an invitation to go deeper, just because so many people get caught up at the cross, right?
Right.
And the cross is like, I'm not downplaying that in any way, but people stay at the cross when the cross is a doorway into the kingdom. And so for me, that was a moment that the Lord's invited me to come away with him, like it talks about in Song of Song, and go deeper into who he is, and really fulfill all he's called me to do. And that moment really set me up for some great things. And then there's several dreams that I won't go into, but just destiny dreams that help to reaffirm where he was wanting me to go, and that was really sweet to me, and I treasure.
Isn't it amazing what those kinds of shut-ins, what it awakens inside of us, and what we encounter, and what we take away, how that just fuels our purpose, our connection with the Lord, all the things that we desperately want, in our efforts to abide and walk with the Lord. Gosh, I love that. That he crowned you and said, hey, will you go further? And it's a question. It's not a demand.
Yeah.
Will you go further? That just sounds so much like a good, loving father. Oh, it's beautiful. What would you say to young women out there today? What would you say to them today? What is your concern for them?
My concern is that we don't know how loved we truly are, how much of a treasure we truly are to the Lord. And how he is truly everything we will ever need. Like everything we could ever want and ask for. He's so much more. But I think the deficit is the love issue. People don't know that people have watered the word love down. It's become cheap. And love is not, God is not in an identity crisis. He defines who he is in his word.
That's right.
And he is love.
Yes.
And when we see him as love, as outlined in Corinthians 13, it talks about the attributes of love. You can replace that word love with God is. And I think the women, they don't know that they are loved. They don't know that they are valued. They don't know who love is and what love is. And so they begin to accept what society or even their upbringing and their history has framed love to be, and they become content in that because that's all they know. And so the love deficit is the biggest concern for me, because if people really knew who they were and how much they are loved, it would change how they present themselves, how they see themselves, and how they live their lives, and that God has so much more for them. And they're not determined, their past doesn't determine their future with God, And so a lot of shame and guilt that comes with that. And but my encouragement and my word to women who are watching this is really just seek the Father's heart, because that's what he is. The first thing it says in the Lord's Prayer, our Father who art in heaven. Our Father, he's a papa. And we're dealing with a lot of individuals and women who don't know their Father. And so really being honest and having brave conversations with the Lord.
Yeah.
He sees it anyway.
Right.
And so that's my encouragement, is be raw, be real with the Lord, and take your pain to him. All of it. Your ugly, your hatred, your anger, and watch what he does with a life that's surrendered.
That's beautiful. The message is the Father's love.
The Father's love, yeah.
He is love. That is his nature, and he does it very well. And you're a great example of that, and how the Lord has transformed you with his love, and you walk in that and carry that. And so today, I want you to be aware that you can actually get in touch with Natasha if you would like to get some ministry, or you have a special dream that you want to talk to her about. How do they find you, Natasha?
Well, I have my YouTube channel, so you can go to my YouTube channel, but my website is Courtier in Counsel. And so if you go to the website, you can, there's several prompts for you to look at, depending on what you're interested in. And you can just fill out the form to get in contact with me through the website or through the YouTube channel.
There you go. And so we'll have that in the comment section, and you'll be able to find her. There'll be a link there. And I just want to thank you for coming.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for coming. And what a beautiful story. And so I want to pray for you today. Maybe you're, just starting out in a situation like Natasha was in, painful, hurt, disillusioned. You know, you knew about God, but you didn't really know Him, and you certainly don't know how He can help you today. And so, Father, I pray that the love that Natasha was talking about, that love that they need right now, Lord, that it would manifest so clearly in word, in truth, in presence, and maybe even in a person. Lord, I pray that you would show them your love today, that they would know you, they would hear you, they would encounter that love today, Father. Let it come. Minister to them right there where they are. In Jesus' name. If you need to reach out to us, please do. We'd love to pray for you, love to minister to you. If you need to connect with Natasha, go to the link below. We'll see you next time here on Generation 19. Thank you for watching.